Okay, so this is with regards to communications with Source, 12th of the 12th, at about 7:30 a.m. It went for about an hour. So the queries I had were with regards to what's happening in the world at the moment, mostly to do with the ability to enact killings on people without any repercussion, mainly with the things like wars in Gaza and some of the other places, this overtaking of human rights. And it's also about this patriarchal stuff that keeps coming up and surfacing and seems to be right up there at the moment with the Virginia Jeffries expose, once again with the billionaires, with the wealthy, and the significant being involved in those types of behaviours. Not just the scum, basically, but everywhere, right up to the top. It's also me asking, because it's been so dense, me asking about, the shift from the 3D to the 5D and how we're doing with that. And also just, when the density is dense and we're feeling down and emotional about that, like not avoiding, actually witnessing, taking notice, that it takes a bit of a toll on our spirit, I guess, in that way. So it's finding how, or if that affects the 5D frequency, which I'm sure it does in some way, but I wanted to check because of, a lot of us have done so much work around this in the last probably, for me personally, about 6-7 years, maybe more. Actually, probably even 10 years now. Trying to maintain that level of high vibrational field, keeping up the high energy, the frequency, sharing that out as the lighthouse. And of course, at this time, this year for me, it's been quite dense. And not that I feel like I'm being pulled out of it, but I can see I'm not turning my back on things just because I don't want to be, unaffected. But I just want to see how that works. If I can feel the emotions around these things happening, if it's anger or sadness or that, and then still be there. Or are we flipping between? So anyway, there's quite a lot that I wanted to find out about because it was interesting for me, and I wanted to know, and also with the extraterrestrial stuff, because there's a lot going on there. And anyway, if I can remember all of it, I will share. So originally, I began with, how did things get corrupted, like on the earth? And Source took me back to the very first moment in the void, not my void, like a Source void. And Source spoke of the thought form, the original thought form that came from the void. So what I was shown was, and this will lead into more as we go. So from the void, Creator wanted to create, to experience. And the first thought form was the extension of desire, which the desire was to experience. And so that began from the void, extending outward, forward, backward, up and down, and then around. So it becomes a sphere. That's the first sphere of the thought form, the consciousness thought form, that is the desire to create. And then from there, go out to the edge and create another. exactly the same. So we're starting to see the beginnings of creation, which is sphere to sphere becomes creation. So one sphere is thought form, the second is beginning creation, and on it goes, and that begins the flower of life sequence, which is actually so old. It's actually the equation for life, the equation for the universe, the equation for all. I know that they try to disrupt that and say it's not, it's a death daisy, whatever. That's a load of rubbish, because this is actually a consciousness thought form that came from nothing. So you can't really argue with it. It's like saying, I don't exist, but you do exist. Anyway, that's what I was shown. And so that's the purest format of the original thought form began in this way. And then as this creation, or as this desire became the desire to create and manifest, to actually bring that into life form, it became apparent. Now we're talking, I don't know, billions and billions and billions from the beginning, that this flower of life just keeps creating itself. The spheres keep getting added, and so it's the mesh. It's like the mesh of everything. And then she spoke of the ones that were desire, that came, that not were jealous, wanted to be better than God, to imitate and mimic God, because they had power. Everybody had power. But these beings wanted more power to control. That becomes the first disruption to that perfect coding. And so when I was shown the flower of life as it's extending and growing through the the ethers and everywhere, this begins one circle that's corrupted. One little circle is corrupted, it's broken. And then the next circle is corrupted. And it's really hard to see that when you're looking at it from a distance, or when you're looking at the whole matrix. You don't notice it. But 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, and it multiplies that way. And so all of a sudden you have a whole format that's been disrupted or corrupted from these other ones, other creation beings that came from the origin source, that wanted power but wanted to disrupt. And so it's like distorting the coding. And then that extended to when those beings wanted to come to Earth. So we're going to jump many, 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 many hundreds of millions of years. They want to come to take over here, for instance. But they want to create beings that resemble them. Okay, so when you start to hear about God creating humans in their image, this is not source. This is not origin source. This is personified God, but not with supreme pure essence. This is a figurehead. And they wanted to create beings in their own form, not for companionship, but for It's like a control thing. It's like, look at me, how powerful I am. Look what I can make. I'm better than Source. I am God. And you are going to worship me as a God. And look at all these things that I can do and make you do. So there's this distortion begins, and then that becomes this false religious rubbish, okay? So you have to look back in time and see that this is what happened. Those beings were what Source showed me with genetic engineers. And when you start talking about genetic engineers, it's not necessarily a great thing, because you're taking purity, the pure flower of life format, and you're breaking or removing or distorting each sphere, each thought form. So he's saying it's another thought form that's been injected into the perfection that then disrupts. Like it's coding. It's literally coding. It's like putting a virus into a computer coding software. That's what it is, injected in. So these beings want to manipulate, play around with, not with good intention. Well, perhaps it starts with good intention, and then it becomes, oh, look, we can make whatever we want, and we can use these beings for our own ends. And somewhere in that, I was shown the Garden of Eden, and this so-called God who creates these beings in his image. But these are not Source created. This is not Source creation. This is a God, and provides all this beautiful things and says, you can have whatever you want, but you're not allowed to have knowledge. Okay, so in other words, I will provide, but you're not to think for yourselves. You're not to have consciousness. So you're my puppets, essentially. So that's not Source. That's not pure Source. Because everybody has consciousness. That's the beginnings, is consciousness. So it's in you. You're part of that. So this is removed with this new image created in the image of God beings. Okay, these first so-called Adam and Eve. And so they become... It's like a father saying, I will give you whatever you want, but you're not allowed to know anything. So it's that kind of fatherish figure, which then we can start to see how this, I'm such a benevolent giver, God, Father, giver, becomes this punishing one as well. So this is, again, it's got nothing to do with Source creation. This is something else. And it's inserted into the purity matrix and then becomes distortion. So, of course, people get bored. People want more because it is the thought form. It's like Source wanted experience. So the same thing's going to happen with a being. Any being is curious. Because at some point they're going to ask or want more. So that's essentially what happened. Eve wants more. She goes to the tree. She's having a chat to the snake, who really is the wisdom teller. And she decides that she wants to have the knowledge. In other words, wants the consciousness and awareness that she's been denied, because it's experience. She wants to go out and experience, not from the purity anymore. She wasn't in purity anyway. Not because of her coming as sinful. There's nothing to do with that. She was part of this being's experiment. So she's decided she wants to experience. And so through this insertion of consciousness and awareness, begins to look so that she can ask the questions. And of course then, Adam jumps on board because he's bored anyway, I suppose, and thinks, oh, well, that could be fun. And then, of course, Big Father God, who is actually not real God, but, false one, comes in and starts getting angry and punishes them because basically they have access to the all-knowing then, don't they? So then he's thinking, well, then they're going to know what I know. So then they'll be powerful, like me. Because once everybody has the consciousness and the awareness and the knowledge, we're all powerful, right? So he banishes them. Off they go. Get out of here. You can start life from the bottom and start your way up, so to speak. Anyway, that's kind of the vision initiation that I was given on that. I don't know. So from there we start to see how that corrupted awareness is inserted in us. And then, of course, we are then tampered with constantly by other beings. Some are trying to correct us. Others want to control us. So genetic modification, which is essentially what's happened, takes us further away from the origin blueprint, the divine origin blueprint that was not corrupted. And so our own personal flower of life, that is our key, we're based on that equation, if you want to call it, that mathematical universal equation, that's us as well, is distorted, broken, corrupted. And so we're kind of, we're lost in that. And what we're doing now is trying to find the reparation of that coding, to come back to our own origin blueprint, which was let's think of it in this way, which is the pure flower of life design. No broken, no circles that are broken, no nothing, just beautiful. So we're trying to repair that. And of course these creatures posing as gods and religions and figureheads and you're in my image and all the rest of that rubbish are not happy about that. Because they're everywhere. They've multiplied, obviously. They're here, they're up there, they're everywhere. And they've got a really good thing going on with us being not aware, not conscious, asleep. It's worked beautifully for them. And they like being worshipped. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's why they created the religions. They like to be worshipped. Some more benevolent than others. Some in particular are a little bit more aggressive, punishing. And there are some that follow that and actually are given so much disgusting instruction, and because they think that they're part of this special God-like figure, that they're part of that's the way you do it. So they don't question it. So, things like killing your children, raping your children, raping other children, killing your neighbour, killing your firstborn, I'm punishing you. This is all very disgusting, corrupted, not source. This is dictatorial. It's very dark, sadistic, manipulative, coercive, and also alongside that, these beings are given this little bit of what we call You're so special. You're amazing. You are the special ones, the other ones are not. So they make those people turn against the other. Mind you, this is not just one religion or one government or one group of people. This happens a lot everywhere. It's a tactic to get somebody feeling so, wow, I'm so amazing, and to tell the others that the others are shit, and that to keep, this purity thing. Well, it's all the same. It's all rubbish. It's all lies. And it's another way to keep people controlled. That's just simple as that. And people are so blasé, they don't even see through it, okay? So we have this, what we call this warring system that has continued and been perpetuated through these kind of whispers. You're so special. They're going to they're trying to beat you. They're trying to be better than you. They want your resources. Whatever that is, whatever the little whispers in their ear. And they think that that's coming from God. It's not coming from God or source. Or it's coming from a God, not source. So it's a God, mimic, personified, in form, just another thought form. And that's what source says. It's just another thought form that goes out and creates or distorts, just a thought form. So I asked about the darkness. Is this the dark versus light? And actually what source says was no, dark is void. Void is creation. What we are seeing as the dark is another thought form. Everything is a thought form, positive, negative. So it's not light versus dark. It's thought form versus thought form. And certain thought forms are more prevalent and also are able to infiltrate the perfect design by corrupting it, putting in the virus. So we're just seeing thought forms going out, manifesting and creating. But the ones that are obviously not doing it are not source connected. This is the difference. If you want to talk light versus dark, there is a not source connected one, the detachment from source. And there's the ones that are connected or attached to source when they create. So it's like saying, one creates in love and the other creates from selfish ego, for instance, out of love and generosity and kindness and care and benevolence. One just is self-serving ego. It's me. So that's basically what we've got. A lot of me going on. It's all about me. And talking about the wars that have been perpetuated forever and ever and ever, because that was the infection or the corruption. Now, with that, sources said, because I've asked about what's happening now, sources said until humans, all of us, decide that no wars can ever be justified as right or righteous, that the wars will continue. So it's up to us to say, we don't even believe or we don't even care. If you think that going to war is good for you, this is not the truth, okay? He's saying this is not the truth. This is just control. And until humans actually choose collectively to say enough, none of this is ever justified. Because you'll see, so, people say, oh, no, that war's justified because it had to happen. It was because this was happening. But when you actually dig into it, it was never, ever about that, what you were told. It was always something else. It was always about that one being wanting something, not getting it, not being able to control it. So until humans collectively decide that no wars are ever justified, ever, that they will continue. Because if people continually agree and go, oh yeah, that was necessary, oh yeah, that's okay, that you just keep on fueling the war effort, and you're not really actually being ever told truth anyways. And this side versus that side doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, because at the end of the day, they're all the same thought form that has taken over and is in control. It's the same thought form, the corrupted version of source. These godlike fakes that have been getting around, controlling things. They love chaos. They love to see each one playing the other off. It's... So until you get beyond this base, the left versus the right, the blacks versus the whites, or the whites versus the blacks, or, the rich versus the poor, or the Muslims versus the Christians, or the Jews doing whatever the fuck they want because unfortunately they've been told that they were the special ones. They were the origin of that first thought form corruption from that false god. And they went out and still have that program. Not all of them. There are definitely those who have awakened to that. And it's costing them. But it costs everybody who awakens. It's like, Adam and Eve. When they got awakened, they were punished. So same thing. You just get punished when you awaken. No control. So those ones but no, it's no different from any of the others. It's just the pendulum swings, and this lot want to kill that lot and say it's because we're pure and you're not. No, that you're all corrupted internally. We all are. So, okay, let's move from that now. So what's happening with us, the ones that are choosing to awaken and activate that consciousness, is that we are doing the reparation internally. And so the reparation of, repairing our coding, we need work. We need to work on that. And we need help. We actually need help. So I've put it out there to send some help, because I think this is the point that we all need help. And so to reawaken and repair the damaged coding of the flower of life, the original flower of life that was us, is going to take time. And the fact that there is two things. So when I asked about, us moving into the higher dimensions, yes, we are doing that through the repairing of the coding. And everyone's really responsible for that themselves. It's choice. It's also shown me that there's a lot that will just be what he calls bystanders, because I was asking, why is it that many just look on these walls, don't feel anything, just stand there? And that they're afraid that if they, look at these things, that somehow it's going to affect them or bring them down from their righteous dimensional frequency that they've attached to. I mean, it's all illusion. So what Source says is that there is experience, there is learning in the experience, even if it's the witnessing. So the learning through the witnessing is important. The bystanders are opting to not experience. They're opting not to participate in that experience. There's no learning in that, no growth in that. And so there's a misbelief that if you ignore, turn your back on, that this is somehow better than righteous. We've probably all done that at some point. We've all done it. But because of the way things are happening at the moment with the, especially in Gaza, this is the one that's actually, if you were to say this was the one that people were meant to pay attention to and call out, it's the other thing saying this needs to be called out. Again, it's calling out the wars for being BS. So there's this thing that people are doing that they feel is higher by not looking or ignoring, that this is more righteous, but it's just another form of ego consciousness and righteousness being told that you're better than if you do that. Whereas if we take Jesus, for instance, Jesus didn't turn his back. I know not everyone's Christian, but it's the same concept. You know, everyone's trying to align with that being's essence, with God's essence, or, you know, Jesus's essence, or it could have been someone else. I don't know. There's so many different beings up that were coming here to show how to be, how to behave, to teach. So I'm using Jesus as an example because it's probably the most prominent in the last couple of thousand years. So, I think Buddha did the same. So they're saying that he didn't turn away from it. And his mission was to, you know, stand up for, be a voice for, you know, he certainly stood up to those religious figureheads, the government of his time, put his life in danger, probably would have been considered a conspiracy theorist and a danger or a threat to the system. So there's thousands of millions of people doing exactly the same now, calling out the system, calling out the religion, putting their lives at risk, voicing it, telling people to stop doing this stuff, that it is not justified. And so he started that. And then it's been continued on, just in different forms. But people still think that they'll only listen if one figurehead comes down from the sky, descends down from the sky, all lit up. And magically he's going to say, you know, don't do the wars anymore. And they're all going to go, oh yeah, I wish we thought of that. I mean, seriously, you know, this is a joke. You don't need someone to come down from the sky. Even if he did come again in a different form, male, female, he probably would kill him anyway, or her. Because you won't see what you're actually doing. You won't see or even acknowledge what this person's doing. But the beauty is that there's millions around the world doing just that now. And I'm doing it too. We're calling it out. We're saying, this is bullshit. You're full of shit. Sorry for the expletives if you don't like it. But I find that there's only a couple of words that describe the amount of that going on. Right, so anyway, okay, so basically no wars are ever justified, and until we all see that, then, you know, it's going to continue. You've got to call it out. You have to call it out. Same with the perverted stuff. You've got to call it out. Because if this is allowed to continue, it will continue and continue to disrupt the coding of all beings going forward. Remember, this multiplies exponentially through the generations, so whoever was doing it now will continue to do it through the line. So it's important for people to stop that from happening. So every individual has their own decision or choice to make. As far as the people in Gaza, there's a lot of, there's a lot of souls that are being really protected with their soul exit, I should say, the soul exiting. There's a lot of sacrifice. They're doing a lot of sacrifice, innocent sacrifice. It's like almost like martyrdom, but they didn't even know that they were doing it. So it's on behalf of humanity that they're sacrificing themselves to show you the truth of what's happening with this distortion and with this group of people who truly believe that they are extraordinary and above God. Remember that. Their false God has told them a false story to reinforce their specialness and justify their killings of others. When you go down that path, then you are no longer God, you're in a God's image, but not source. This is so source disconnected. It has absolutely nothing to do with source and divine purity. Nothing whatsoever. That's the lie. Okay, so I've rambled on about that now. Now the other part, now that's obviously not going to please a lot of people. All religions have been part of that distortion. All of them are about control. It's a systemic control. It's about a false memory set, a false history, a separation from source connection, pure source connection, not this God. You can be connected to this God through them. It's all the same. So, there's multiple things that have happened over history that create the same thing, the same problem. I'm trying to find the next thread from there. Yeah, so the New Earth 5D consciousness stuff is basically repairing the origin. And the Earth is repairing her origin as well. Now, with this solar flares, yes, talking about the moving to the 0 point for the, the pole flip, magnetic pole shift. This happens, this is a cycle. It happens every a few 100,000 years. It'll happen, maybe longer, maybe every, the pole shifts have to happen. It's cyclical, like anything else, like a season. But this is a cyclical thing that happens to the Earth. So we're moving to the 0 point, and then the flip will happen. Apparently the flip will happen within 24 hours. And it will cause major catastrophe, like land, earth catastrophes in the process. This is unavoidable. But it has to happen because it is part of Earth's cycle. So she's moving to the 0 point. A magnetic field, is moving to the 0 point. And the Schumann resonance goes up, magnetic goes down. And then the flip will happen. It is coming to that. And from what I can see, there will be a lot of disasters around the world. We're already experiencing that. There will be a big change. Lots of changes happening. Not a lot I can tell you about what's going to happen to the humans. There will be survivals of that, but there also may be a lot of not. This is unavoidable. Okay, it will happen. It's not to scare anybody. It just is. It just is. The Earth has her own power. And as far as I'm aware, that change will also signify a new change for everybody. Because, of course, when the Earth takes over, there won't really be anybody in control because they can't control her. So that's going to disrupt and change a lot of things. Are humans going to be here after I'm not certain. A source didn't really, well, we didn't really talk about that. I don't see that as important. To be honest, it is what it is. If we all go, we go. If we don't, we don't. We have work to do regardless. And, you know, whether you're on soul mission or not, it's just the same. You know, Earth will do what she needs to do. Okay, and with our connections with extraterrestrials, if you will, let's go down that path for a minute. So there's been a lot of, again, distortion around that. Of course, that was all going to be a setup. We've all been played in that one. But the connections are there for those who want it. Again, it's choice. Everything is choice. Do you want the connection? You don't want the connection. Up to you. No one's forcing it. Those that have memory surfacing of having contact or connection, that is, you know, for them to explore if they want it. Now, there is interference happening by, again, these groups that do not want you to reconnect and reestablish maybe your origin family connections. They don't want you to know. So they're also disrupting, again, by, you know, false implants, abductions, that type of thing. So there's, unfortunately, that level of negativity. That's another thought form that's going out to people. This kind of ties in with these new technologies that are coming out to control people, because it is technically alien technology, but it's being used as weaponry, which, well, hello, we know. So the same groups that want control from this distorted godlike figurehead that has given these individuals the power, who believe in him or it. So anyway, there's got this alien technology that is like direct weaponry that interferes with the biological form through energy weaponry, through, you know, digital AI tracking, that type of thing, sound, using all the elements, frequency, to disrupt, again, the coding, to stop people from recoding their origin. So it's punishment. It's all about this stupid punishment, this hatred. It's absolute pure hatred of the purity of source. That's what that is. It's hatred of the purity of source. And because it's like just jealous. This godlike figure is so jealous of the origin. It wants to beat it. It wants to prove its worth as equivalent to. And so anything that's starting to show itself as returning back to that purity, it hates it. It just hates it. So I asked, well, then how do we combat that? And so they're basically, it's not even basic, but basically you have to think above it. Your thought form has to be greater to disrupt it. In other words, you will burn it out. You will burn out that system through your own abilities, your protection system, your ability to counter that through your own abilities, your psychic abilities, your choice to return to the blueprint, and continually pushing that out into the ethers, that's your thought form, and putting that out into the fourth dimension highway for others to pick up on. So we can disrupt it through our own thought form, because this is just another thought form, a disrupted one, that we can still counter with our own thought form. So some people might call that, manifesting in your brain, or manifesting thought to counter the other thought. So you essentially create the thought form of the pure flower of life, like a protective field. The other thought form is distorted, so it can't penetrate. You have to be aware and conscious of that, so you can disrupt. And again, I've asked for assistance on that. For those who want it, ask for assistance from your star family, from source, whatever. Ask for assistance, because we're going to need it. And trackers, implants, whatever. I know some of us have been re-implanted, I think. It's all trackers, just on that topic, that they will be removed organically. So they'll eventually just make their way out of the system. Again, because the choice. So you can choose to have them there, or you can choose not to. So you can override that. Now, it's hard to tell which is the benevolent trackers and which are not. But at the end of the day, they don't actually need to put trackers in our bodies at all. If they're a source-connected group of star beings, for instance, they do not need to put any tracking device or implant into your system or into your body for any reason. They have much greater technology that does not require interference like that. So, we don't need it. So if you think you have implants or whatever, you can ask for them to be removed and to use another format that does not interfere with the body form, the avatar. I think that was about all. I can't remember much else, I'm afraid. I mean, it was yesterday. Yesterday seems so long ago, and I had a session after. So a lot of it's disappeared from my brain before I had time to process it all. I hope this has given some insight. So you have choices to make. Your choice is to witness and to evolve that way through the witnessing, the growth through the emotion, to not turn your back on, not be a bystander, but to acknowledge and to call out these behaviours, patriarchal behaviours, this godlike image that likes to perpetuate itself in everything, corrupting everything. So you have a choice. Do you want to go back to pure format, thought form, or stay corrupted? Keep overriding any digital interference. Stay sovereign, you'll be looked after. Just when we say sovereign, some people are now saying it's a negative, but just what it means is untouchable, that you make choice on behalf of yourself autonomously, that you have the right to be that being, your being, autonomously, without anyone else messing with that. You have free will. That's your actual human birthright, is free will. That's why you come here. You choose. That's free will. No one can control you. They will try. They will try. That's the effort. That is the effort. And the ramping up of this darkness everywhere, that's a thought form. It's not created from source from the void. It's created from thought form and a desire to be better and beat purity and God, to corrupt. It's just experience. And at the end of the day, it'll wear itself down anyway. Corruption eats corruption. So there you go. Okay. Take care. I hope some of this helps. Bye.